For more than a decade, Olivia Newton-John ruled the pop charts with her unique blend of sweetness and sexuality.
It seems very tame now, but in the 80s and early 80s, it was raunchy.
I think she will go down in history as being one of the most significant artists of the 80s.
But despite the career highs, Olivia has had more than her share of personal lows.
You just think, cancer, I could die. It's very frightening.
It was so shocking and yet not real. You know, how could this happen?
In the next hour, we'll explore the remarkable life of Olivia Newton-John. We'll learn about the phenomenal career that happened almost by accident.
And I just wanted to stay in Melbourne, and I didn't want to go.
We'll go behind the scenes of one of the most successful musical films in Hollywood history.
And I was really nervous that I would look too old.
I mean, I looked around and everyone was like gawking at this creature.
We'll learn about the devastating news that rocked Olivia's world.
I went through some terrified moments and some nights of terror.
And we'll discover the source of Olivia's strength.
She is the greatest joy in my life.
This is Olivia Newton-John's Celebrity Profile.
Life is a gift, and enjoy every day.
Olivia Newton-John was born on September 26, 1948, in Cambridge, England. The youngest of 3 children, Olivia was raised in an academic household with a rich history of achievement.
My grandfather on my mother's side was Max Born, and he won the Nobel Prize for quantum physics in '52, I believe. He was a very close friend of Einstein's, and my mother talks of being a child, and Einstein would come to the house and play music with my grandfather. My grandfather played wonderful piano, and Einstein, I believe, played a string instrument, and so they would play music.
Olivia's parents, Brinley and Irene, encouraged music around their own house. Olivia's older sister, Rona.
And our dad was very musical, so we used to kind of sing with him around the piano.
According to my mother, I always sang, and even as a little girl.
Olivia started singing and had enormous talent from a very young age. I mean, she could harmonize without being taught anything.
In 1953, Olivia's father, Brinley Newton-John, accepted a job in a country far from Olivia's birthplace.
And he was offered to be the dean, I guess you'd call it, of a college in Australia called Ormond College when he was 40. So he was actually the youngest dean of a college in Australian history. And so we moved from England to Australia with the whole family, my brother, my sister, and myself, on a ship. Arrived in Melbourne, I guess I was 5 years old.
Olivia flourished in Australia, but the family didn't. Olivia's parents divorced in 1959.
And I think I got a little distracted by all that. The emotional influence of that, I think, affected my concentration at school.
Olivia was not an A student, but even at a young age, she clearly demonstrated star potential.
I guess I was probably 10, and there was they love competitions out there, they did then.
And I entered her in a Hayley Mills competition because she really looked like her at that time.
And my sister sent my photograph in, and I won it.
And that kind of, I don't know, kind of spurred her onto show business.
By the time Olivia was 14, it seemed she was on her way to a career in the spotlight.
I met some young girls of my own age, and we started singing together. And we formed a little group called the Soul Four, and we used to sing around Melbourne and sing in jazz clubs.
The Soul Four didn't last long.
My mother put an end to the girl group because she said it was taking away from my homework. What homework?
Still, Olivia didn't abandon performing. Olivia sang on weekends at a coffee shop in Melbourne owned by her brother-in-law. It was there that Olivia heard about a local competition.
Then there was another television show, talent show called the Johnny O'Keefe Show.
I entered this singing contest that was on a national television show, and long story made short, I won it. And because I got a lot of publicity out of that, I was offered a lot of jobs. So I was offered a job on a daytime children's television show.
15-year-old Olivia jumped at the opportunity. The show was called Lovely Livy.
I had to be a hostess, I had to do commercials, I had to sing, we did music hall once a week, and we'd do one show live and tape one show for for 2 days and then do one show live. I started off in my hometown and got accustomed to that kind of being known pretty well as a young girl.
After a year on Lovely Livy, Olivia appeared on a local game show where she met future music partners Pat and John Ferrer.
She was just like a little girl. She was only about 15. Cute little girl, but a little girl.
I entered this gong show kind of contest. Early in the morning, you would just show up and then you'd do some, perform something. And I sung Summertime, and I got 3 gongs instead of the hook.
She was very sweet, very kind of shy. I remember her going on the first time and just standing there very stiff. She had always had a pretty voice.
Following her gong show appearance, Olivia was approached by a talent agent.
She called my mother and wanted to manage me, and this was a big shock to my mother, who said, no way. If anyone's going to manage her, I am. And that's really how the ball started rolling.
She had that special something, the Olivia and the camera and the voice, and it all went together.
Coming up, Olivia takes a chance on her career.
She kind of took me by the hair and said, you're going.
And later, Olivia's first taste of stardom.
Suddenly I heard that I caused this controversy in Nashville.
By 1965, 17-year-old Olivia Newton-John was an established singing star in Australia. The time was right to find a bigger audience. Olivia's mother realized there were more opportunities for her daughter in England, but Olivia was reluctant to take the leap.
My mother wanted me to go because she wanted me to go to RADA, which is the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and study acting. I didn't want to go at all. I had a boyfriend in Melbourne and I just wanted to stay in Melbourne, and I didn't want to go. She kind of took me by the hair and said, you're going. And then after about 3 months, one of my friends, Pat Carroll, came over.
Pat Carroll was a successful singer in her own right. She signed with a talent agency in London and followed Olivia.
I met her at the airport, and she was going to stay one night with my mother and myself, and then they had found her an apartment or a hotel.
I moved into the hotel and stayed about an hour, hated it.
It was so horrible that she ended up moving in with me and Mum, totally. And we were in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Pat and Olivia performed as solo artists at various clubs around London.
And one of our friends was in the Seekers at that time, and he said to us, well, why don't you just join up as a double act, just join up together, split the cost. She's always said that I should be splitting my fees with her now because she split hers with me then.
Olivia and Pat developed a song and dance routine.
We worked out, we took the charts that she had and we worked them into harmonies, and Pat was a dancer, so she taught me how to dance and do routines together. And that's how we started.
The girls were young and inexperienced, which provided some comical moments on stage.
Well, we rehearsed. We thought it would be really cute to have lots of great dance routines. So we sort of have 4 steps forward, 4 side, a spin, a turn out this way, crossover. But we forgot to rehearse with the actual leads. We used Coca-Cola bottles in the apartment.
In those days, you had cords on your microphones, and we ended up totally twisted around one another because we were not used to that. She danced all the way around me because I was pretty much frozen and she was a dancer. So at the end of the first number, we were like this with a mic, so.
Oh, we just laughed about it and put them down, and it was fine.
Olivia and Pat toured the United Kingdom from 1965 to 1967. During one show, they opened for the group The Shadows, and Olivia met musician Bruce Welch. The two began dating. In 1968, Pat's visa ran out and she returned to Australia. 20-year-old Olivia was without her musical partner.
It was tough on both of us, really. We wanted to stay together, but she didn't want to stay in Australia. She was involved with a man in England, and so she had a life there. She's also English, so she was allowed to stay there, and I couldn't. So we had to part ways. Apart from our friendship, our act was really important to us, and we really were starting to do some really good things, so that was disappointing.
In fact, when Pat was going back to Australia, I said to her, you should go back and marry that guy, John. He's a really nice guy. And she did. So, no, we all knew each other from when we were really young. And so I stayed on in England.
Olivia continued performing in London as a solo artist. In 1969, record producer Don Kirshner was pitching a project and needed the perfect girl next door.
Don Kirshner, who put all the monkeys together, were looking to make a new group and put them in films, in a series of films instead of television.
Producer Don Kirshner.
And I went into an office in England I saw Olivia in that office, and it was just magic. I just thought she was fabulous. And we hit it off, and I said, I'd like you to be the star of my new movie.
I met them and was put into this group, and we made a movie. And it was a sci-fi musical. Very funny when I think about it now. And obviously, lots of money behind it.
In 1969, the film Tomorrow was released. It was a commercial disappointment.
The whole Tomorrow situation was an utter disaster. I never even saw the film.
A film came out and it was terrible and absolutely died a death, and we were disbanded and let go. So that was, you know, a disappointment, but another learning. I mean, all these things are part of your learning experience. I got to make a movie, I got to travel, I got to come to America, so there's always yin and yang in these things.
Later that year, Olivia's boyfriend, Bruce Welch, introduced her to singer Cliff Richard, who was looking for a duet partner.
So I kind of auditioned for him to do this song, and our voices went really well, and we recorded the B-side of one of his records.
Richard was impressed with the young performer and asked Olivia to join him on tour.
Cliff Richard and I have a wonderful chemistry when we sing together.
The 1971 tour was a big success.
And then Cliff's manager, Peter Gormley, who's also an Aussie, wanted me to, you know, record. So Bruce Welch, who was my boyfriend, and John Farrow recorded me doing the Bob Dylan song. To be honest, I didn't really like it. I wasn't crazy about the song and didn't think I did a very good job on it.
The song, If Not For You, peaked at number 7 on the UK charts and became Olivia's first hit single.
I was wrong, and thank goodness Peter suggested that song for me, because I never would have picked it for myself.
To promote the single, 23-year-old Olivia made a series of appearances, including a guest spot on Cliff Richard's television show.
I ended up staying for the whole series. And Cliff was wonderful to me. I learnt so much from him about performing and about everything, really.
Cliff was a huge star, and it was quite something for her to be on the show with him. And he became a very good friend.
Olivia recorded a second single, Let Me Be There, in England. The song peaked at number 6 on the US charts. But it was an encounter with another female performer that convinced Olivia to make a permanent move across the Atlantic.
Helen Reddy and her husband Jeff Wald, I went to see Helen performing in Florida. And she said to me, you know, if you want to make it in this country, you really have to move here because you need to be available for the opportunities.
In 1974, Olivia ended her relationship with boyfriend Bruce Welch. The 26-year-old singer bought a one-way plane ticket to America.
And I was in a relationship that was not doing very well, and I thought, well, what I got to lose? And I packed up and I moved to Los Angeles. And thank goodness I did. It was the best thing I ever did.
Coming up, Olivia is cast in the biggest role of her career.
I was 29, and I was really nervous that I would look too old.
And later,
I went through some terrified moments and some nights of terror.
in 1974, 26-year-old Olivia Newton-John decided to capitalize on the success of her popular single, Let Me Be There. Olivia packed her bags, purchased a one-way ticket from London to Los Angeles, and focused her attention on American audiences.
It's a little intimidating, but I don't know, I guess looking back, I wonder how I did it. You know, I was in my early 20s, but I just did it. And I remember I moved into the Sunset Marquee, and the first night I was there, I heard gunshots and sirens outside my door, and I walked outside, you know, on the street, and I thought, what have I done? I was really scared.
Scared, but not daunted.
I went on a tour. I started touring. I got on this Greyhound bus and went around all these colleges, college campuses.
During the next several months, Olivia lived on the road. Let Me Be There remained on the U.S. pop charts for 14 weeks. The single also topped the country charts.
Yes, interesting, isn't it? Because I was not even aware that country music was a separate thing, because my manager loved country music and thought my voice suited that style. He thought that folk and country were right for me, and it was right for my voice, and it really was the right choice.
Olivia made a new right choice when she returned to the studio to record a ballad that took her career to another level.
And I remember the take we used was the first take. I think I did 3 takes, and it was the first take.